Today on Riffs, Spirits, and Gear, we talk about Presonus Studio One version 4. Presonus has long been building a huge dedicated fan base for their DAW Studio One, and recently version 4 was released from, I believe it was 3.5 or 3.7, something like that. And I've been seeing a lot of Studio One, and I thought we would kind of go over my thoughts about it and my perspective, being a very long time Logic user. And before that, I was a Reaper user, and I've also used Cubase, and I've also used Pro Tools a little bit. But I thought we would kind of talk about coming at Studio One from maybe not a seasoned user of Studio One. And I think I'm the perfect candidate to do that because I am not a seasoned vet with Studio One. So here is a track I did for the Gravity Cabs demo. Right off the bat, when I opened up Studio One, it was extremely intuitive, and I wasn't expecting it to be as intuitive as it is. I was able to recreate my entire tracking template that I use in Logic in Studio One without Googling a single thing. I was able to create my Superior Drummer track. I have Superior Drummer here, and it's gonna come up in just a second. Double click, see, I'm still learning. Don't double click, single click. But here is Superior Drummer 3. This is just my regular preset that I always start with. Here are my, what would be track stacks in Logic. These are my folders, and I've made the folders the buses for the subsequent tracks. Here's my main guitar tracks and my main guitar track folder. I can just collapse down as I'm used to doing in Logic. I have other guitar tracks and a bass track and a talk track and things like that. There are a lot of little things that I really, really appreciate that maybe Cubase users are used to, but maybe Logic users are not, and vice versa. But Studio One, to me, from an outside perspective, feels like they have cherry-picked the best features from all of the DAWs and included them and tossed them in Studio One. So it's not trying to be one DAW or the other, it's just trying to be the most efficient DAW. And I really appreciate that. For instance, down here in the mixer, which Presonus calls the console, I can either be in compact, like a mini mode, which is what I am in now. So if I wanted to open up a plugin, I would simply expand the bus and go to my plugins, right? But when I go to the plugin, if I double click, notice the plugin comes up, but up above, I can now scroll through my various plugins in the channel strip without closing out one plugin and opening up another. I can stay right here in the window. Again, I think it's brilliant. I've never seen this before, and this is fast. And again, I'm gonna use the word intuitive a lot. It's fast, efficient, and intuitive. I really, really enjoyed this, especially. If I wanna add a plugin, now Cubase users, you guys have had this for years, but Logic users do not. You have a search function for your plugins, which seems simple and inconsequential. I can go to a plugin, I can search for it. If I close it out and go to another part of the strip, I can then go to my recent tab. So I have all my recently used plugins. I can collapse that. If I select something with my as a favorite, if I star it, it'll appear in my favorites for quick access. Again, intuitive. Now above that, I have 4 different sort types for the plugins. If I want to view it by vendor, if I want to use it, if I want to just do it flat, here's just a flat list of all the plugins I have, and it's a lot. I can go by type, vendor, which is the default, or folder, which is great. I like vendor, but again, speed and efficiency is the name of the game here. I thought this was great. So if I don't want to be in mini mode, I'll collapse this and come over here to the left, and I'll hit these arrows, the up and down arrows, and I now have a traditional console style mixing view with my inserts and my sends above my channel strip. Okay, that's a normal view. Logic users are very used to this particular view, whereas the other view, maybe Cubase users are more in sync with, but having the option is awesome. I love that I can just collapse it and just not even really worry about it if I don't want to. Now, if I want to mess with ins and outs, my inputs and outputs, I just go over to the IO button and I hit IO, and I have instant access to my inputs and my outputs. Now, I will point out that with Cubase, I basically had to build the input and output channels manually and then save that as a preset. So every time I opened it up, it would then load that profile. With Presonus Studio One, I was actually able to just start it for the first time, and it saw the actual physical inputs of the Apollo, and it was instantly there. I had to add the virtual channels and stuff like that, which is to be expected. But the fact that it just went, oh yeah, you have an Apollo? Boom, here you go. Here's your ins, here's your outs. I thought that was fantastic. I didn't have to do any setting up. So now let's talk about the MIDI roll. Here is my MIDI drums. It's regular MIDI as you would expect it to be. And if I want to edit the MIDI, I know I should probably be able to just double click. And I can. Now the MIDI roll is awesome. And I don't know it all yet. I don't hardly know the ins and outs and the intricacies of the MIDI roll yet. This is a fresh perspective, but I like the fact that I can draw the velocities down here, which Reaper users, you guys have been able to do for years. I can draw in velocity curves and notes so easily and fast. Can't do that in Logic. You can't do anything like that in Logic. Now, the last thing I will touch on is down here at the bottom left, we have inputs, outputs, external, and instruments. If I want to view any of those things instantly, I will click on them. So for example, I want to view my inputs that I have available to me. I will simply click on inputs. I now have my inputs. You can see me talking right now on input number 2, which is what I am on. If I don't want to look at that any longer, I will simply turn off inputs. There we go, nice and clean. If we want to do outputs, it's going to appear on the right-hand side. Boom, there are my outputs that I have available for reamping and things like that. And just turn this off, quick, easy, and painless. So far, that has been my experience with Studio One. It's really been awesome. It's been a pleasure to use. I'm using it just because I was curious about it. I've never been afraid to kind of just dive into something, another DAW especially. I've tried Cubase, I came from Reaper before I went to Logic. I didn't like Pro Tools, but I definitely tried it. And I just thought I would give Studio One a try, and it's really awesome. And I didn't expect to be using it and getting along with it like I have, but I'm just gonna keep using it for the time being just because it feels comfortable. And I like it when software and recording software make it easier for me to do my job. So there you go. That's an honest perspective from a longtime Logic user. You guys know I've been a Logic user for a long time. Studio One is definitely worth checking out if you guys are looking for some kind of a cross-platform DAW, as well as maybe something new and fresh. All the applicable links down below in the description. You've been wonderful. I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time.